everyone, welcome back to Loopy Studio, and today I'm here to review When Calls the Heart, Season 13, Episode 7, and it is called In a Jam. So I thought this was a really strong episode. It's probably my favorite of the season. I like how they gave every character and every relationship something, even ones that they haven't focused on as much this season or even in a while. Like the Faith and Lily stuff, and Florence and Ned got a little moment. I mean, I thought there was like a lot of really good things for our secondary characters. And I mean, there was some progression with the investigation, amping things up there a bit. A nice moment with Elizabeth and Nathan, maybe introducing another love triangle. So there's like a lot of stuff going on. It very much felt like a setup episode, really like we're halfway through the season. We're really getting into the meat of everything going on. But, like, the main plot in this episode is Minnie has to fix a bunch of jam to send to Angela's school. It's curious we haven't seen Angela. I'm wondering if we'll see her come for a visit. I think that would be cool. See how she's doing. But basically they have to do fix all this jam in a record amount of time. And luckily in Hope Valley, people are willing to help each other out. Now, in most scenarios, this wouldn't happen, and you wouldn't be able to pull something off like that. Nowadays, you can just drive and do it, but it's kind of hard to just in a regular old town, unless you have a big family, but to just get a bunch of people together on short notice to put together something like this. But that's just kind of the magic of Hope Valley for you. Everyone drops everything they're doing and helps Minnie out. And not everyone. Some people, like Lucas is off on his own, Nathan's off on his own, but mostly everyone, and Faith, of course, has to take care of Patience, but mostly everyone is helping Minnie out here. And, of course, Elizabeth and Rosemary are on sugar duty, and they forget to put sugar in one of the batches. So about 50 jars or whatever are bitter, and Lee's the one who points it out. And Rosemary realizes that her and Elizabeth messed up, which, I mean, look, your only job is to put sugar in and stir. You don't even need two people for that job. So those two are just such idiots. And I hope that if something like this happens again, then Minnie assigns them to different jobs, because literally anyone else except maybe Mike and May would have been able to do that job clearly. But yeah, I did think Mike and May stomping on the berries was a good role for them. But yeah, luckily they're able to, by some miracle, they're able to add all the sugar into the bad jam, and they're able to get it on the train because it was delayed. There was a miracle. So, and Joseph goes, and, there was some really nice Joseph and Minnie scenes. You just really saw how nice they work together. They're just a very good couple, and they're just solid partners throughout all of this. So I did really like that. And the ending where they talk about how happy they are that their son's not being taken from them, and they're, just really reflecting about how far they've come. And Minnie decides she wants to rename the cafe. At first she says the Canfields, but Joseph says, how about just Minnie's Cafe, which is what I've been saying all along, that it should be Minnie's Cafe. It's literally hers. She's the main person who works there. So I mean, it was still Abigail's Cafe even when she was off as the mayor, so doing everything. So there's no reason why Minnie can't just name it for herself. But it's interesting that they're finally renaming the cafe, and now Abigail's going to be coming back. And I really feel like they did that on purpose. Assuming they knew that she was coming back at this point, I feel like Abigail's going to come back. She's going to see that the sign has changed and that it's no longer hers. I mean, I'm sure she'll understand that she's been gone for 10 years or whatever, and that things change. But, it's going to be interesting. They're clearly use that to set up clearly her return. They're finally changing the name. I think it was called The Cafe, but they're finally making it personal to Minnie. It's no longer in Abigail's hands. It's time for the next people to take over. So, but I really like that Joseph and Minnie scene where they were dancing. They're just kind of your comfort couple in a sense, in a way that even Rosemary and Lee aren't. There's no drama with Joseph and Minnie. They're just there for each other, and they support each other, which I really do like. So the investigation. So Christopher's freaking out because an article is published in the Benson Hills or some neighboring town, an article is published saying that the kids are no longer suspects. So now they're turning to someone else. They have a new suspect, which is Christopher, but they're not revealing that information. But, people are like starting to catch on that maybe it's him. But, everyone's doing their best. Henry and Nathan and Bill, they're doing their best to keep it on the down low. Rosemary, of course, wants in on the scoop. But Christopher and Nathan, they go because he's going to show Christopher or Nathan where the transformer is that he buried. And a car almost runs them off the road. And Christopher gets a concussion and some of his ribs are cracked, and Nathan gets just a wound. But yeah, I mean, this was pretty intense. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we've seen Nathan get injured before. But we've also seen plenty of cop outs where we think he's gonna get injured and he doesn't. So it was, it wasn't like great for him to be injured, but it added a little bit of stakes to the entire situation. There's normally just not high stakes here on When Calls the Heart, so I like that they at least added Nathan getting a little bit injured to show that there is still a sense of like danger to this show. But I mean, Christopher got pretty injured. I mean, not like terribly so, but enough to scare him. Which I mean, they assume and we assume that the guy who ran them off the road is Christopher's boss from Pioneer Electric. I mean, he came in, I guess, trying to scare Christopher. I mean, I don't think he was intentionally trying to kill him because, I mean, clearly they were going to get out of the way before he ran them over because they knew he was coming. But, yeah, he's trying to scare Christopher, and he does because Christopher leaves at the end of the episode. So, and he leaves a note for Henry saying he can't help in the investigation any longer. Nathan realizes he didn't leave willingly. He clearly... So, the whole accident and everything got to him. So yeah, I mean, pretty big stuff right there. So it's gonna be interesting. I assume that Christopher will eventually change his mind and he'll confess and do the right thing. But it's gonna be an uphill battle for him for sure. So, but yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of progress in the investigation, but it gave us a little bit of like a dangerous situation. And it's kind of showing that if this electric company is willing to like run people off the road, then they're more ruthless than we think they are. So I'm curious how that ties in. They're not just like some professional company that scams you and it's shady. They're kind of what's the term? They're kind of not like a full-on mobster, but they're actually dangerous, which kind of sets them up to be like the new big bad, I guess, this company, I assume. But yeah, what else? Okay, so there's this Lucas, Edie, and Fernando situation of it all, and basically a missing horse gets loose, and Lucas tries to get it, but Fernando is like the Amy Fleming of When Calls the Heart, and he's able to calm him down, and Lucas is clearly like a little bit jealous because he senses that Edie and Fernando have a lot in common. They're both ranchers, all of that. Lucas is not a rancher, but it is nice to see him like lassoing. I think it's cool to see him doing other things rather than just being behind his office and being behind his desk in his office and making calls. So, but unfortunately, Lucas is now hurt. He's upset because he thinks there's something going on with Edie and Fernando. Now, Edie assures him that nothing's going on between them, and Lucas is like, yeah, sure. I mean, he doesn't buy it. He's afraid to open his heart up again after what happened with Elizabeth, which is completely understandable. We've seen this before, not with Lucas per se, but with Nathan. Remember at the beginning of season 11 when Nathan saw Elizabeth and Lucas talking, and he thought, after they had broken off their engagement, and he thought there was still something going on with them. This is basically the same thing. It's an ex-fiance, Edie's ex, and Lucas is jealous. And the difference, though, is that Elizabeth just was kind of immature then still and wasn't being honest with Nathan about her and Lucas. She just dodged it. She didn't realize it was bothering Nathan. Edie can sense it's bothering Lucas, and she assures him nothing's going on. But for some reason, Lucas just has that like trauma and, that insecurity about finding love again, So it's upsetting to see, but it also kind of makes sense. It's just sad to see him kind of push Edie away because how much they like each other. it's just another like step back for them. But I know it'll all work out for them by the end. I don't think she's into Fernando. I mean, I think she might have been kind of impressed, but to me, it didn't feel like she was like flabbergasted when he was able to get the horse. She was just like, oh yeah, he can do that. It didn't feel like, and I didn't sense that from her, so I don't know why Lucas sensed something from her. I don't know. I think they should have maybe shown Edie, maybe show like a little bit more like, oh, like impressed by him, but they didn't. So I don't really know where Lucas is getting his insecurity from. But that, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So we also have this little plot line with Faith and Lily. Faith is so busy with all these patients now that she has 2 towns basically to doctor, and Lily is upset that she doesn't get to spend any time with her Auntie Faith, and to the point where she's jealous of LJ and she steals his little stuffed dog. And then Faith realizes, oh crap, like I'm just not being there for Lily. Lily really doesn't have anyone because I'm supposed to be her caregiver, but I'm really not doing the best job. And Elizabeth helps her and talks to her and gives her advice saying, we need to give you a day off, which I absolutely agree with, that doctors need a day off. They're overworked, especially back then. I mean, sure, Faith has Molly, but Molly, as of before, we find out at the end, but like until now, she doesn't have the credentials to actually do what Faith can do. She's just like a helper. So Faith has to do everything on her own. And nowadays, doctors have like assistants that do a lot of the work for them. So it's a bit easier, but they're still on call, They still have to go in if something happens. Doctors have a very challenging job. And especially if you're like a single parent, like Faith is, or single guardian, you just can't give your child everything that you need. And Elizabeth does make a good point when she says, we hopefully when our kids grow up, we realize that we just tried the best that we could. And I think that's all that's going to matter by the end of this, is that assuming Lily gets to stay with Faith, by the time she gets older, she'll realize that sure, Auntie Faith was like busy, but she tried her best with me. She loved me. She did all that she could for me. So I would have liked maybe for Faith to go to someone else other than Elizabeth, because it just feels like Elizabeth and Minnie are the only ones who actually give out advice. And maybe Faith just thought because Elizabeth had an actual job, she would understand what it was like, where Minnie doesn't. We just assume Minnie homeschooled Angela and Cooper, so it's like a little bit different, I guess. But yeah, I like how it ended with Faith promising to spend more time with Lily, and we find out that Molly's becoming a nurse, which is huge. I think that's really cool. I love that for her. It's gonna definitely open up more plot lines. If something happens with Faith, or like Faith has to take a step back with something with Lily, then maybe Molly can step in and do more. We'll see, though. I think it's nice giving Molly something to do, though. On the flip side of that, with Florence and Ned is collecting jars in their house, and he accidentally throws out stuff from Florence's jar that Florence saved from their honeymoon. So he kind of messed up there, and Florence is upset. She's complaining to the children. We got to see a little bit of the angsty Florence back, which was funny. But then by the end, he makes it up to her with that memory jar, which was really sweet. Again, it was nice to get them a little plot line. We don't really get to see them do much, so I like that little interaction. With Mike and May, again, I said their job for the jam thing is stomping on the berries, and Mike gets stung by a bee, and it's really bad. His eye's all swollen, so she has to take him to see Faith. And then when he's on like the meds and everything, he says he wants to have kids with her. We don't get to see them finish that conversation, but I think they will. It's kind of a predictive formula, but I think we'll see them have kids. I would love to see Mike as a dad, and because he's gonna struggle so much with like how to be there. I could totally just see the most hilarious scene where May's giving birth and Mike just doesn't know what to do. He's freaking out. I would love to see May being pregnant, and Mike just having no idea how to help her, and her snapping at him. I think there's a lot of potential there with some humor, so I would love to see them have kids and see that next chapter for them. So the final thing I want to say is Elizabeth and Nathan have a really nice scene where they promise each other that if something happens to them, they will take care of their kid. Nathan with LJ and Elizabeth with Allie, which, again, every couple has to have that conversation when they're both single parents. You just have to. I'm surprised they haven't had it yet, but they do. And it's a really sweet scene, and it just reminds me that they should be married. There's no reason why they shouldn't be married by now, but they're not. But it's fine. We know we're going to get it soon. It's coming. But yeah, so that's episode 7 for you. Let me know down below, what did you think of the episode? And next week, we're seeing Rosemary put on a play, and the whole town's in it. That's going to be a lot of fun. I've always wanted to see something like that. So should be a good time there. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.